Hey everyone, Judy May here. How you doing? So I'm all snuggled up today. I got my sweater on, I got my little blanket with me, and we just want to snuggle down for the next 20 minutes and look at some stuff because success isn't built from push and shove. It seems to be that way, but the kind of success that people like us build comes through curiosity. Just asking questions and redefining something and refining it and going back again and saying, well, how did that work? And if you can fall in love with that process, or should I say when you fall in love with that process, you'll start to find that, hey, you know what? Not only can I do success, can I build wealth, become financially free, get the kind of relationships that I want, have the kind of adventures that I want, get to contribute in the way that I want, all that super good stuff. Not only is it doable for me, but it's actually amazing fun. And this is what I've discovered over the last 17 years as I've been on this path myself, is that the more curious I get, the more I sort of ask, okay, what's going on here? I can see how the usual rules often don't apply to me, to people like us, people who identify as being more timid. We get into more reactive states quite quickly. We get overwhelmed quite quickly. We don't usually have the kind of bodies that can just push forward, and we don't have masses of testosterone going through us, and so we can't do the things if we're told, okay, just get up early, run, come on, we weren't built for that. But that doesn't mean that we weren't built for success. We do not have to settle. We do not have to have lives that are about supporting others only and their dreams. We get to live our dreams as well. So the thing that I'm going to start to ask you to get curious about today is an idea called cognitive dissonance. Now, never be scared by a term. A term, particularly when it gets really popular, like everybody's talking about about cognitive dissonance these days. And if you're still on the outside, if you still feel like I don't know what it means, or someone told me what it means and I still don't really get it, that's okay. Never ever be put off by any kind of term. If basically you don't understand something, it's because you weren't taught it properly, because teaching is simply where the unknown is matched in your brain to something that you already know. And if that match isn't happening, if you're not learning the thing, it's something that the person that's teaching you hasn't found the right way to put those two things together. So I hope to be that person for you today around cognitive dissonance. And then we're also going to be talking about what that leads to, the kind of justification process that leads to, and how that affects people who are more sensitive, people who are less able to be out there in a very, very extrovert way. Doesn't mean we're not sociable, doesn't mean we don't love people. It just means that we need a lot more recovery time on our own, and we get sad and we feel hurt a lot more easily. We're kind of like the tribe of the hurt people, right? But we don't have to stay there. We don't have to live there. And there are upsides to being the way that we are. And we get to play those upsides when we can get really curious about, how can we stop doing the stuff that's not working? So cognitive dissonance, what is it? The way I like to think of it is there's two ideas in your brain. And those ideas, because of the nature of those ideas, it's very, very hard for them to live together. Kind of like an odd couple, except without the movies and the TV show, right? So let's suppose that you're a person who really goes into fantasy. We're really good at fantasy. Those of us who go into freeze mode as part of our complex PTSD. Again, if you don't understand the term complex PTSD, you don't understand what freeze mode is, it's okay. In future videos, I'll be getting everyone up to speed with all the terminology. It's all good. But just imagine now that you are someone who's really good at fantasy. And when you fantasize about yourself, you imagine yourself being at this really amazing party. And you imagine yourself just making everybody laugh, and you can do that, you're smart. And so you've got that idea of you as a really great party person going on in your brain. And then on the other hand, you have another idea going on. And that idea is based on references from previous times you were at parties and you were tongue-tied, or you couldn't think what to say, or you shone for a while and then you just felt exhausted and had to leave early. I think Cinderella left way before midnight. That's just my personal thing. I think she probably left at about 9:30 and said she stayed till midnight. But anyway, when you have those two ideas going on, one is this fantasy idea of I'm a really great person at a party, and the other has references for, I get overwhelmed and exhausted and I'm not great at parties. What that does is it stops you from getting traction when it comes to going to parties, right? So you will kind of say, yeah, I'd love to go to that. That would be really, really cool. And then you start to get ready. And then the other part of your brain takes over and says, no, danger, you don't want to go. So when you find yourself, and people like us often do this, you are planning something, whether that is a party or something in work, or a project or a day out, and then you cancel it at the last minute. It's because you've got these two battling parts of your brain going on. The part that says, hey, in order to have a good life and to feel good, you got to get to the party. And the part that says, no, in order to have a good life and feel good, you got to stay home. Right? And the thing is that it's very rarely one or the other. And that's what's just so frustrating about this stop-start way that we can have of living. You know, I said I was going to do that, and I started a little bit, and then I didn't. I wrote the first chapter of my book, and then I stopped. Or then I tried this, and then I stopped doing that. And I've been saying I'm going to be doing this, and I haven't. Like, why is that? Well, you know, some people who don't think as much as we do. It's not that they can't think, but they're just much better at just taking action and not being so internal about things. They don't kind of like look at everything. They can often get so much more done in the world simply because they don't have that going on in that way. They've got their own version of it, but our version of it is more in the format that I've just explained. And because they don't have that going on in that way, they can end up just doing a whole load of stuff, even though they might not look from the outside like they would be capable of doing it, right? They manage to get traction because they don't have these fighting parts. So let's suppose that, let's suppose someone is full-blown NPD. They have narcissistic personality disorder. So they've got the whole, as we know, there's like 9, or maybe not, there's 9 different traits, and people have to fulfill at least 5 of them to be diagnosed psychologically as having narcissistic personality disorder. And a couple of those include grandiosity, an idea of, hey, I'm just better and I'm just awesome. Also, another one is entitlement, a feeling of people just owe me stuff just because I am so great and I'm the center of the universe, right? So they've got that going on massively. So the bit of them that is like buried way in the past, that is shame-based, that says, I'm not okay, I'm awful, they've so buried that part part can't come out to play with them. That part can't surface and say, oh, you're not so great, you're terrible. It's just the part of them that says, hey, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. That bit stays on all the time, and that's why they get a lot of traction in the world. That's why they get to, get out there and kind of learn on the job. And that's why we don't, because we will have part of us that says, I'm awesome, and another part that says, I'm not awesome, or I'm capable, I'm not capable. This is safe, this is unsafe. And we've got a lot of that going on all the time. So anytime you find you're not getting traction, what does traction mean? Just you're not getting to grips with it. It's not a go consistently enough that you can get a result. Anytime that's happening for you, ask yourself, well, what parts of me are playing here? And a really cool thing you can do is you can actually turn them into characters. So you can say something like, okay, well, the Bette Midler part of me is planning parties, and then the little dormouse part of me is staying home. Okay, how can you get those two parts to talk to each other? How can you get Bette Midler to maybe stop showing up in such an exaggerated way? Maybe if you can say, okay, I'm going to go to the party, but I'm going to bring along my, I don't know, name anyone, self, my Ryan Stiles self, for those of you who know whose line is it anyway. Like, Ryan is just, he's charming and he's witty and he's funny, but he's kind of understated, right? So, I'm going to show up in that way. And then, that person can then talk to the dormouse person, or you as the you that you feel to be in this moment can say to the dormouse, hey, it's okay. There's more of us here. We're going to look after you. You're going to be fine. And if you find yourself not feeling fine, yes, we can always go home, but let's just go anyway. Same for the meeting. Yeah, I know you want to cancel the meeting. Let's just show up. I've had meetings with my staff members where I've shown up and said, I'm not able to have this meeting, but I will show up. I showed up, I was unwell over the summer, and like really unwell one day, and there was a thing going on. I'll tell you about it someday. It was pretty funny actually in the end, but it just meant that I had zero energy some of the days, and but I still showed up and paid for my MMA training session 1-to-1, and I said, you know what, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it today, but I needed to just keep showing up so that I couldn't develop this part of me that said I don't show up or I can't show up. All right, so that's one thing that we can do when we got cognitive dissonance, just fighting parts going on in our brain, is that we can just kind of modulate those different parts, talk to them, negotiate with them, get creative, get curious, because all the different parts of us are trying to protect us in their own way. It might be that there's one part of us is trying to protect who we were when we were 6 years old, another part's trying to protect who we were last week, another part's trying to protect the part of us that gets hungry. So realize that's what's going on. All of your brain is on your side. I hate the word sabotage, self-sabotage. I can't stand that term, because it really throws out this very, very real, true idea that all of your brain is trying to protect you. Anyway, we'll talk about that on another call. So what then happens if we are kind of unconscious around that, if we don't know that this is what's going on, and we just have this feeling of we just have this feeling of we want to pull back from some idea, we just don't want to do that anymore, but we haven't worked out, I don't feel like doing that because of this. Well, then we tend to go into justification. And there's lots of different ways that you can slice this up. The way that I slice it up is this. I turned it into 4 Ds. I just thought it's pretty cool when I'm teaching on stage. I just kind of write it all up as, well, the way that I say it is, right, there's these 4 Ds. Do you want to keep getting Ds? So at the end, you got to get an A, you got to adjust. All right, but I wouldn't do that to you because that's a bit cheesy for a YouTube video. So the 4 Ds are deny, deal, defend, and distract. Those are the things that we tend to get to do. That's what our brain will do in order to save us, particularly from something that's unconscious. We don't really know why we don't want to do it. So when we can catch ourselves doing one of these 4 Ds, then we can say to ourselves, okay, I know that there's cognitive dissonance going on. Because a lot of people say, but how do I know? Because in the moment, it just feels like I am the dormouse. In the moment, it just feels like I am the people pleaser. I can't tell that there's fighting parts. Well, when you are in justification, there's usually fighting parts. Okay, so that's why I'm now talking to you about justifications. Okay, so the first thing that we do is we deal. So in fact, let's just do deny first, because that's usually the first place that we go. So that will be just denying that it's a problem. Hey, I don't need to go out. I'm fine here on my own. But you're denying the fact that we are social beings, and that you do need to, in order to create success, you do need to get around other people. I often say that, all your dream come true is in other people's pockets right now, or in other people's heads and other people's hearts. You got to go to those other people. So denying that going to a party, staying home from a party is a problem, doing that consistently, it's just not true, is it? But you're just sort of saying, hey, not a problem. Or let's put it in terms of, if you are 20% overweight, over your ideal weight, and you sort of say something like, oh, but it's fine because, I'll get fit after Christmas, I'll wait, I'm busy till then. Or, you're just kind of just pushing it away. So that's the first thing the brain will do. It'll just say, nope, doesn't exist, not a problem, don't see it, because it causes pain, right? But obviously we got to catch ourselves and say, It does exist. It is a problem, maybe not a huge one, but it would be better if we solved this. So what is the cognitive dissonance? Right. Second one then is that we deal. So we say to ourselves, so in fact, the idea of, I'll get fit after Christmas, that's an example of dealing rather than denying. Denying is pretty much like, it's not a problem at all. Plenty of people are this weight, and I have a sister who's absolutely hilarious. She's Asperger's, and she has various other conditions, and she's just an absolute delight to be around because she can just be so funny, and she's rather overweight, and she just the way that she denies is she just sort of says, well, I don't want to be an anorexic, do I? And I'm like, no, sweetie, you don't want to be an anorexic. But it's just a classic example, one that always makes me smile. So the second one then is deal, where we say to ourselves, I won't go to this party, or I won't have the meeting now, but I will do it next weekend. And that's the great one. Like when people talk about procrastination, I don't like to use the word procrastination. I just don't like it as a word, because really it's just you're not doing it and you're telling yourself a pretty little story. And when you're telling yourself that pretty little story saying, I will do it later, you're not fully present with the fact that you are dealing. That you are saying, not now, later. That you're somehow imagining that in the future, circumstances are going to be different, you're going to be different, rather than saying, oh, look at me doing a deal here. Well, what can I do instead of doing a deal? Like, who do I imagine I'm going to be 2 days from now when I'm going to do it? And what would it take for me to be that person right now? So, the part of the cognitive dissonance that's going on is you've got the yay, let's go for it person, or the yay, let's go for it part of your brain, and you've got the not now I'm tired and hungry part of your brain, and the not now I'm tired and hungry or unclear part of your brain is winning in the moment. So even sometimes just getting clear about that is what is going on can stop you from dealing and say, right, what do I need to be to get myself into a state where I can become the person that wants to go for it, the person that put that on the to-do list. How can I get back to being him or her again, right? So when you find yourself dealing, that's usually another sign that you've got cognitive dissonance as unresolved. And by the way, when cognitive dissonance is unresolved, it has a really huge effect on the body. Like, that is really what stress is. It's kind of like those two fighting parts. That it's not just sort of like in a floaty around in your brain kind of way. It's actually physically happening in your body. So that's another really, really great reason why we want to get to grips with this and learn that it happens and start catching it and start dealing with it as it happens, because the wear and tear on these little bodies is absolutely huge. And as I say, we don't have the massive testosterone or the massive bulk or that kind of physical power to push through that kind of stress on the body, that kind of wear and tear. Okay, so the next thing that we do then is we distract. So we just say, you know what, this over here is way more fun. And culturally, a lot of people distract with TV, movies, online. And these days, it's really easy to distract because you can tell yourself a story that I'm not distracting, I'm taking care of my social media and taking care of my business. But unless you've got it written up that these are the things I'm going to do on social media, and this is specifically the result that I'm getting, and this is how many times and how many minutes I'm going to do it for every day, unless you've got that locked in and you know that you are just in that mode and it's on the schedule, you're possibly distracting. Just putting that out there as an idea. If you find yourself really wanting to defend it, as with anything, when we really want to go in there and defend it, that's time when we got to get curious and say, wow, why do I feel like I've got to kill anyone that comes near this idea? How is this idea protecting me right now? What is it protecting me from? Again, just right back to just getting curious, layers and layers and layers and layers. And then it's not endless. We do reach points where we don't need to keep unraveling. We do reach points where we're now in a state where we can go and get that traction. We can go and start to get stuff done. So is distracting something that you do? Defending it is a really interesting one because defend is the fourth D, and defending really means that you're sort of saying, how could I be expected to? And that's something that, particularly if we have developed illness. I didn't mean to suggest earlier on that I am in any way long-term ill. It was just a very short-term thing that I got diagnosed and got over it. But I know that a lot of you watching this channel are spoonies. So, that's the term for, you have some kind of long-term condition, usually a congenital condition, and that means that you only have a certain amount of energy. Well, just watch out for, are you using your condition as a way of defending against creating awesome things in the world? So I've met people who are ill and it's legitimate. And often it's invisible. Other people don't see it. So you really feel like you have to assert it, and you really feel like you have to say, hey, look, I've got this going on, right? So please don't think I'm being in any way uncaring about your situation. I am, but I'm being even more caring about your situation than you are, because I want you to be able to feel as well as you can for as long as you can, and to create great success, and to really, really adventure big in the world and really enjoy everything in spite of your condition. Same goes for those of you who have conditions that are created, like you have 4 kids or something, right? That I can't even imagine that. We got it, but we do have to be careful that we don't just use it as a way to defend against our cognitive dissonance. The way to say, well, I can't possibly be expected to go to the party because I'm HSP. Like, I did that for years. I was like, well, I'm a highly sensitive person and lights and too much talk and I can't possibly be expected. Yes, I can. I can expect to go to a party. I now very successfully go to parties. I do it in a very specific way. I get there a little bit later. I'm quite strategic. I work out that, I'm not going to be running to the kitchen and helping out in the kitchen and doing all those kind of more codependent things. I'm going to make the most of my time at the party, particularly if there's people I want to catch up with or people I want to meet for the first time. I'll do my research ahead. I know, right? Way to have a party, way to have a good time and relax, Judy May. Do your research. But really, for someone like me, parties are not very easy. But I don't use that fact as a way of defending not going to parties. I say, yes, and I need to go. I need to do that. I need to learn how to do parties more easily. I can now really enjoy them. I also let people know ahead of time, like the people that are going. I'll sort of say, hey, listen, if I can't really chat, or you'll find me in the garden, or, also, a lot of this we do unconsciously, right? We find our little areas. Like if there's a party going on, there's like a swing set, we'll be the ones on the swing set, or we'll be the ones, in the little corner of the patio, or we'll be the ones by the fire. We'll find ways to create that. So we can find ways to do these things successfully, but if we are using the justification that is the defend mode of I can't be expected to because, then it's just, life is actually going to be a lot more difficult. In the moment, we might be making it easier, or we might think we're making it easy, we might think we're protecting ourselves, but long term, we're actually making it a lot harder. So, yeah, let's just go over those again. So we can either deny, deal, defend, or distract or defend. Deny, deal, distract, or defend. There's other ways that you can slice it, but those I find are most useful for me. It's like, what am I doing here? What story am I telling myself about this situation? So this is specifically, if you find yourself saying to yourself that you're going to do something and then pulling back from it, not doing it. So I said I was going to do this. I promised myself this. I'm now breaking my promise to myself. Hey, how's that as for an interesting way of putting it to rather than just I don't have time, or one of these kind of like blanket things that we throw on top of it. You made a promise to yourself that you're going to make this goal happen, and you're not doing the things that it takes to make it happen. So my suggestion is that you probably have cognitive dissonance going on. There's probably two parts of you or two ideas that are in conflict. How do you know? Well, because usually you've got a justification going on. And those justifications are deny, deal, defend, distract. All right, so work out which one of those is going on, and then you can start to look at, okay, what is it that I think I'm protecting from? And there's where you'll find the cognitive dissonance, and there's where you can start to kind of work it out and talk to yourself and all the other stuff that we've been talking about. Okay, I want to leave it there. I want to make sure that that I don't have these videos go too long, because if you've got an hour, I want you to spend 20 minutes talking to me, and then I want you to spend 20 minutes building the success. Making plans, journaling, working it out, getting curious, okay? Here's a really great question for you to get curious around. Just how happy and successful could you be in this lifetime? Awesome. Listen, I'll talk to you guys really, really soon. Until then, take care. Bye.